It is 7 o'clock, so I will call the Planning Commission meeting of February 21st, 2024 to order. And if you all would please join me, we'll start by honoring our country with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Travis Baker.
Here.
Chad Banks.
Here.
Dane Drew.
Here.
Brent Emerick.
Here.
Jack Green.
Here.
Thor Hodges.
Here.
Mark Johnson. Kim Kurtz-Seslar.
Here.
Joe Wolf.
Here.
John Woodmansee.
Here. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consideration and adoption of the previous meeting's minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as they were presented to you, please? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll call for a vote to approve minutes, please.
Joe Wolf.
Aye.
Kim Kurtz-Seslar.
Aye.
Mark Johnson. Jack Green.
Aye.
Brent Emerick.
Aye.
Dane Drew.
Aye.
Chad Banks.
Aye.
Travis Baker.
Abstain.
Thor Hodges.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the administration of oath to witnesses or anybody that's here to speak tonight. If you would please now, if you would give your attention to Liz Deckard, and she will administer that oath of truthfulness.
Anybody who plans on speaking tonight, if you please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give before the commission tonight will be the truth? If so, state I do.
I do.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have, I was told that there very possibly could be someone joining it by teleconference. Is that set up, or yes or no?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
Brent
so-
Langeloh, the petitioner for the next case, is electronic.
Does he plan on speaking? Did he take the oath, please?
He did, and when you register online, that's part of what you agreed to when you register.
Very good. So if the minutes would be noted that we do have that happening tonight, and that the oath has been administered, or likewise with the program that he entered on the computer. We'll move on then to, if no old business, we'll move to new business, to 24W Subdivision 3, titled West Loon. Nathan, are you prepared with a staff report, please?
Sure thing, Mr. President. So, let me get going with that. Okay. So this is a 2-lot subdivision to be called West Loon. Its current address is 2740 West 700 North. That's the address of the existing dwelling on the site. It's located at the northwest corner of 700 North and Brown Road in Etna Troy Township on the southwest corner of Loon Lake. Zoned LR Lake Residential. What is being proposed is a plat consisting of 2 lots. One would contain the existing residence. One would contain the existing outbuilding, barn, shed, whatever you want to call it, outbuilding generally. There would also be an ingress-egress easement on the west side of what is Lot 1, that is to cover an existing shared driveway to the property to the north. And then dedicated rights-of-way would be dedicated for both Brown Road and 700 North. This being not a replat like we often see with this, being a completely new plat from unplatted ground, rights-of-way did need to be dedicated. If this was a replat, we can sometimes avoid that, but this is not such a replat. Of course, already zoned LR, so no rezoning is required. As noted in the staff report, variances are required for the lot area and lot width. There are also some encroachments into the setbacks that are also being considered as variances. Those are kind of optional because of the way they're created. They could be treated as legal non-conforming, but those are going to be heard at the BZA next week if this is approved, that's a condition of approval that those variances, at least for lot area and lot width, be granted at the BZA. Additionally, there's a waiver that would be required for the proposed right-of-way width on Brown Road. Both Brown Road and 700 North are minor collectors with 70-foot wide rights-of-way recommended. For various reasons, Brown Road is being requested to be platted at only 60-foot right-of-way or 30 feet from center line. I'll go more into that in a second, but that is something to be considered as well. You can see there on the table, all of the different zoning standards are met except for the minimum lot size for lot 2 and the minimum lot width for lot 2, which, as I mentioned, are the pieces that require the variances. Going on to aerial view for everyone's reference here. Outlined in blue there is the subject site. You can see right now it is a inverted U shape. With the plat, it becomes 2 more regularly shaped lots effectively. Closer view. And here is the proposed plat. Lot 2 has the existing house, as I mentioned, lot 1 with the shed, outbuilding, and then you can see the dedicated rights-of-way being the large areas here along 700 North and then Brown Road over here. This is the ingress-egress easement that goes up to that shared driveway. The plat overlaid over the aerial for consideration as well. Note that the differences in survey versus GIS are somewhat apparent here, but this is pretty close fit. So, as mentioned in the staff report, we don't talk about it very much, but the anti-funneling code of the zoning code comes into play here. Generally, the anti-funneling code states that anytime you have a proposal that involves additional residential lots that may have access to the shoreline of our lake, then there is a minimum set of distances, minimum amount of shoreline that is required per lot. That's listed there in the second paragraph. For the first lot, it's 50 feet, second lot, 25 feet, and every lot after that would be 15 additional feet. This comes into play because we found out, one of the neighbors let us know, and we looked in the recorded documents, there is actually an existing 10-foot wide access easement that had been granted by previous owners to previous owners of this property between 7054 and 7040 Brown Road. It's 10 foot wide, basically just says they have the right to get to the lake. Normally the Plan Commission stays out of easement issues, and especially ones that are recorded outside of your purview, but because of the anti-funneling code says anytime you have a right of access to the lakes, including easements, then we have to enforce the funneling code. So because of that, we have two lots being created. The minimum amount of shoreline required then would be 75 feet, 50 for the first, 25 for the second. Of course, 10 feet, a 10-foot easement is not 75 feet, so they would be in violation of the anti-funneling code if this was going forward. However, the way around that is to say no net gain in residential lots. So if there's no change, the code doesn't apply, and it's very clear that it doesn't apply. So one of the conditions that I request is that one or both of the lots be rescinded from that easement agreement. However, the petitioner and the easement holders want to handle that, it's up to them. But in order to satisfy the anti-funneling code, one of those lots needs to lose that access. And as I understand it, the petitioner's actually already looked into what that would take, but so it's not news to him. This is the location of that access easement there up to Loon Lake. And then the requested waiver of the right-of-way, as I mentioned, both Brown Road and 700 North are designated minor collectors. On the map there, it's the orange lines. The black lines are local roads. Minor collectors have 70 foot of right-of-way recommended, or 35-foot half-width from center line. Proposed is a 30-foot half right-of-way on Brown Road, which makes it equivalent to a local road. Subdivision road is a 50-foot right-of-way, so things that are internal subdivisions. But in terms of county roads, you've got local collector, minor collector, major collector, and so on. So this, as proposed, would provide a right-of-way equivalent to a local road for Brown Road. So it's still in line with codes, it's just not what the comprehensive plan specifies. As you look up and down, I gave you more details in the written staff report, but as you look up and down Brown Road, there are so many encroachments and proximity, it's unlikely that Brown Road would be able to ever use a full 70-foot right-of-way. 60, perhaps. And so it's basically a matter of, as you read those findings, what I suggest is balancing the creation of encroachments into the setbacks. As you increase the right-of-way being dedicated, you increase the amount of encroachment versus the potential need for expansion along Brown Road, and even the potential of doing anything because of all the other existing houses along Brown Road. So again, you may feel a little differently, but that's where I was coming from with the proposed findings. So then going to the conditions, I've alluded to a couple of them. Number one is to rescind one or both of the plots out of that access easement agreement. Two, that the waiver be approved as presented based upon the findings. Three, the requirement for the variances for lot area and width be obtained. Again, those are on the docket for BZA next week. And then number four being the standard delegation of secondary plat approval to staff. So any questions for me?
Thank you, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Is there someone here as a representative of this project that would like to speak on behalf of it, please? Just a reminder, if you would please, as you come forward, state your name and your address, and then the floor is yours.
My name is Ryan Pepler. I live at 3490 North Etna Road. I'm here as a representative of Walker and Associates Land Surveyors. We did the split for Mr. Holman and Mr. Langeloh. I'm going to hand out some copies, some full-size copies, so you can see a little bit better. As Nathan said, so if you look at the preliminary plat here, the existing property line goes to the center line of County Road 700 North, and the east line of the existing property is actually the existing west right-of-way line of Brown Road. If that additional right-of-way was not part of or taken out of this, lot number 1 would increase to 12,968 square feet, which is 0.30 acres. And lot number 2 would actually be above the 10,000 square feet. It would be 10,964, or 0.25 acres. So by that right-of-way being reduced down just on the east side, that's where where it gets below the 10,000 square feet. As far as, not to mention, there are several, Nathan alluded to this a little bit, that there are several tracks within, there's 9 or 10 tracks within 500 feet of this track that are already below the 10,000 square feet. So it does fit the community area within that area. As far as the funneling, if you'll notice, there's a small difference on the preliminary plat that I handed out that is different than what was sent out before after hearing from people. They are going to, let me get the wording right. The easement note on the top right corner of page 1 basically says that the tract includes an easement 10 feet wide. That easement's located across the road. And that lot number 1 will retain the rights of said easement, but the lot number 2 will not. So there's a net gain of 0 on the use of the easement. That easement is, I'll get the wording exactly right, but it's for ingress and egress to the water's edge of Loon Lake is how that easement reads. So to give you a brief history of that. Are there any questions for me?
Thank you.
We do have Brooks online here as well, as you can see on the screen, if you have any questions for him as well.
Brooks, is there anything that you would like to add as a requester of this change?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
And sorry for not being able to attend, but we had plans to meet our grandkids down in North Carolina. Not really anything I have to change that. I think Ryan pointed out that we would have met the 10,000 square foot pretty easily if we wouldn't have had to give up the right of way. And again, we are giving up the right to the easement on the one lot, so there's no gain on the easement right. That's about all I have at this point.
Any questions for Brooks Langeloh, please? Hearing none, we'll open up the public hearing. This is the opportunity for anybody that's here that would like to speak for or against this request to come forward and have the floor and give us your opinion.
So my name's Dan Weigel. I own the property directly across from where the shed or pole barn's at. So first concern for me is what you don't see in this aerial view is this pole barn.
Will you just state the address for your property, please, for the record?
Address 7054 North Brown Road.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine. So what you don't see is that barn's like on a 20-foot incline on a hillside. So this basically is going to become a storage lot one way or another. I mean, the guy wants it for storage, whether it's inside or outside. Anything setting on the roadside would be on a hillside heading straight for my property is concern number one. And then it's just a concern of it becoming the place where we keep all the trailers in the summer because it's an available storage lot and it keeps stuff away from whoever happens to own that building's property. So them are two concerns I have is stuff potentially being able to roll my way and the fact of the eyesore that could be generated maybe not by this current owner that's going to take over, but things happen. Maybe it sells next year, maybe 2 years. So then who gets it after that and what are we left with? Secondly is the easement. So we're putting an easement on a barn without a restroom. That its only restroom sounds like it will be the easement to the lake or the only place to get water. So me and the neighbor both had told Mr. Langeloh that if they wanted to erase the easements completely, we would go unopposed to this. But As it is, the last thing we want to see is that barn have an easement. I mean, you want to leave it with the house, so be it, but we would prefer not see it stay with a barn that has no running water, no bathroom. So those are my two biggest concerns with it.
How is the outbuilding currently being used?
When it was owned by Tom Bodie, yes, it was barely used at all, actually. I mean, he had a mower in it, and he didn't have much in it, storage, minor stuff, nothing outside.
Help me understand, whether we approve or don't approve this, that shed, that building's still gonna be there.
Yes,
And well, I think what I'm hearing is you're concerned about the flow of water? Or is it just the storage of
the storage of the trailers or whatever else we're gonna start putting out around there. I mean, if it becomes a storage lot.
is not being used as storage now, correct?
Correct. Yeah, the property, yeah, there's not trailers set up.
So is there a reason why lot number 2 wouldn't retain the rights of the easement, but lot number 1 would be removed? Maybe that's a question for Mr. Langeloh. Why would the easement rights not be reversed?
As far as leaving it on the house and not on the barn?
Correct.
Well, because the person sounds to me, I guess I should let him answer that, the person that's gonna get the barn wants the easement.
Brooks, would you?
Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Somebody pointed out I hadn't actually started the webcast. They can view it, but they didn't actually see certain things. Fortunately, I'm recording it, so we have a record of this.
Brooks, are you being able to hear everything that was said?
Yes.
Okay, do you have a response to that question, please?
Yes, it's actually Claude Holman Jr., people to Lake know him as Skip, owns a house down further north on Brown Road. And like most lake areas, everybody's a place to put their boat in the wintertime. He has no intention of outside storage. It's not going to become a storage lot. He just wants a place to put his pole barn and lake toys in the wintertime because he has no room down where he's at. As far as the easement, he would like to have the easement for the barn. I mean, the easement does give value to property. We're willing to give it up on the house, which is where you sell it, you could have 3 or 4 or 5 people living there, which gives them all the rights. So it just makes sense to me to pull it off the house. And that would be less traffic on the easement, and I don't even know if Claude ever intends to use the easement. But it was given to those lots, so he would like to keep it on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all I had.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Hi, Gene Donaghy, 7040 North Brown Road, just across the street. If anybody'd like copies of the easement agreement, we have those available. That was back in 1991. It was between the two people that owned where Dan's at and where I own back in 91 with 3 people. It was Orcutt's. It was Judd Pearson, and it was Weinbrenner. And since that time, there are now 6 properties that have access to that instead of 3. We're concerned, or I'm concerned, is that and people only have ingress, egress. So they can only walk down, look at the lake, turn around, and go back out. Unless somebody brings a boat down in the lake picks them up, he gets in the boat, and they leave. That's basically all they can do, unless they want to. I guess they could swim over to someplace else in the lake, but you know it's a quarter of a mile swim. So, but that's all they have is just able to get down there and back. My concern is now we've gone from 3 people back in '91 to 6 houses. This could be, if they do release, the one said we're not going to have the easement, we're still at 6. If they have parties at the barn, those people could be going down to the easement, whatever. I've got grandkids, he's got grandkids. I don't want people drinking, walking down to the pier or walking down to the edge of the lake and walking back. The other problem I have is if this is a rental on the corner, you got renters changing, I don't know, maybe 6 months every year, a year, 2 years, whatever. You don't know who's there. I don't know who's there. And I have people walking down my easement looking around. And just to walk down to the easement to get in a boat or swim across the lake or whatever. Those are my concerns. And I think, and I believe Dan's in favor and in coordinates with me, is that if they just give up both of the easements on, or both the rights to the easement on both those properties, we don't have a problem with a division on that. And quite frankly, it just doesn't seem to me that that has a whole lot of value of walking down to the lake and seeing the lake. So, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak, please?
No, I didn't take the oath. You want me to take the oath real quickly?
If you'd like to speak, we will still administer the oath to you.
Yes, please. Do you swear or affirm that any statement you make before the commission tonight will be the truth? If so, state I do.
Hi, I'm Deb Hahn, and I live at 7064 North Brown Road. I'm the 3rd in row. We're all neighbors. Lots touch each other. I am here to support my neighbors and also have some of the same concerns. All of us have grandkids along there, and we have our own family functions. Agree 100% that that easement does not touch my ground, but I do have concerns that people who might want to come out and look at the lake might be affecting my family gatherings, my grandchildren's safety. I think that it could be given up. I don't see what the easement, honestly, is going to do for that whole barn. And I 100% am not in favor of that barn. I know it's been stated, 100% not in favor of that barn being used as some kind of outdoor catch-all storage. That is going to detract from our property values, and that's not what I'm there for. I have a concern for property values. If you drive around a lake property, and you start seeing these lots that have all these trailers, there is no way that you don't think that that looks pretty bad. And that is my biggest fear, is that's going to turn into something that's an eyesore and detracts from my property value. Thank you.
I think that covers everybody that's in attendance, so I will at this time close the public hearing and turn it back over to the commission.
I know that from experience, my brother lives on a lake in Kosciuszko County, where the property that he bought, the lady had sold the easement before they bought it. Just for that easement, she got $25,000. Well, I can see the reason the gentleman wants the easement kept, because it's worth a monetary value. And it increases the property value of that property that has the pole barn on it. So, but also I understand safety issues and that, but have they talked to the gentleman who's looking at buying it to see, because Brooks made it sound like he wants it for the barn to put his boat in during the winter. So, and if he owns the property, he controls who's on and off that property. So, and if he doesn't want the liability of having other people's trailers on that property, he just won't rent it out. So, or lease it out to it.
How many and which properties are serviced by that easement?
We tried to determine exactly, but because some of these properties were split over the years, we aren't exactly able. I trust what the neighbor said, that there's 6 by your count currently, so I think that's probably correct.
Yeah, so the house, where the house is, the barn, and the house to the north was owned by Kurtz. And so Tom Bodie bought the house up on the hill, or just next to the, what's next to the barn to the north. And Tom got it surveyed and sold the house. He came down to this lot here and built a house on the corner. And then I believe then he built the shed, the barn, which they want to split those lots. So that was at one time, it was one time a lot, and now it's divided into 2. Now we're going to divide it into 3. The lot 2 that's in the middle of U there, that was just Pearson, and that house has just been sold. I mean, that's the only breakup of that lot. And then if you go to the north, the Weinbrenners own that, and it's currently owned by the Stinsons. And then my understanding, yeah, then there's the lot north, there's one lot to the north that the Weinbrenners own, and that was split into 2. It's now the Stinsons and the Randalls. And then I believe Brent and Nathan, we've been talking about the lot who John Wise owns, which is to the left there. There's a building there, and we think that was part of it too.
I believe from research that was Orchids as well.
That's part of Orchids, okay. And that would make sense with that area. So it's gone from 3, and they were, I don't know, they probably were all friends at the time. Then it split into 6, and now it's 7. In Arkansas, you know, when you split something up or have an easement and everybody's friends, you don't have a problem with friends going down to the lake. But now it's 30 years later, 34 years, 33 years later, and there's all kinds of different people that could be going down there off of 6 or 7 lots instead of just 3. Yeah, and there's no pier access down there either. It's not nowhere nearby. It has, we have riparian rights. I talked to the DNR, and they said, all these people do got an opportunity to walk down to the lake. They can get in if they want, but can't have parties and all that because that's on our, I mean, that's within our beach areas and all that. And if we don't have control of who comes down the easement, then I've got real concern about that. And then it can change all the time. It could change. It could go.
Gene, over the last several years, how many people generally will come down there in the course of the summer or season or year? How often is it used? How often do you see people?
I don't see people very often, but it doesn't mean that somebody doesn't sell the house and you get somebody else that says, oh, we got access. We'll just walk down there where they've been partying and they walk down there and that. Tom is a single guy. I think there's a family lives there, but they're to the north there. They haven't been in there much, but the people that do come down haven't been very wild and crazy. They just walk down there and walk back. But that doesn't mean it's we split stuff and rent parcels and that you don't have to end up with.
So this easement is between both of your houses. How close can these people walk to your house, or how far?
It's 5 foot either side of the property line, and they would be within 5 feet of my house and probably 20 feet or
So essentially, a complete stranger could walk 5 feet from your house at any time of day or night and be completely in their right to do so. The way this is.
Like from our front porch. And, you know, we got beaches, you know, it's pretty sandy right there, thank goodness. That's why we moved down to the area, because we were much a little further north, so. But I'm just, you know, I got teenagers, grandkids and all that, I just don't want people walking down there and looking around.
Have you guys made any kind of proposals or had any conversations with these people to purchase it? To purchase the right of way and eliminate it?
I had a couple conversations with Mr. Langeloh about removing the properties off of it. His response was that the new owner of the barn wanted to keep that on.
Do you guys know that fella?
No.
Don't know him?
And it sounds like he's probably a nice guy, but how long does he stay there before he sells, and then it's the next guy? You know, and things happen to everybody, so there's no guarantee they'll own it for a year.
That's right, but somebody that does have the rights to it legally, when it was set up with the people that owned your property beforehand, they could be in the same position. Maybe you sell your house and some guy moves in that's a real curmudgeon and he raises fits and cusses and throws rocks every time that somebody comes down that easement that they're entitled to. So it's kind of, you know, it can be a two-way street. I understand where you guys are coming from, but I mean, it's a legal easement for those properties. And I don't think that you're arguing that fact. I appreciate that. It's just you're trying to make sure you keep it in check so it doesn't end up where there's 10 lots that have access to the easement.
Each time one of these. All we're saying is if they agree to release their rights to that easement, we don't have a problem with that.
Each time one of these lots is subdivided, it doesn't by default add someone onto the easement, right? I mean, it wasn't an agreement with the new subdivided lot, am I right?
Liz, you want to speak to that and how successors would work?
Okay, so the easement applies to the one parcel now they're wanting to subdivide. So I think the way it would work is the easement exists, there should be a description in the deed as to where the easement is. It's not just a general easement, it exists in a physical spot on the property. And so that easement would go to whoever gets that section of the property.
But the question is the grantees, there is no description of what properties, it's just by name for the grantees. The grantors and the location of easement is very clear, but the grantees were 3 parties, and now.
No, because it would follow the parcel. It would just follow the parcel.
That wasn't correct. It's just by name. Those properties owned by Pearsons, Orpets, and
I would probably want to look at the deed. Sorry. Typically, when you have an easement, you should describe the parcel that's benefiting and the parcel that. Does that make sense, Nathan?
that makes sense to me, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way it was done.
Yeah. It's not the way it was written.
Yeah, and that happens a lot of times, and I've litigated those issues in other circumstances. And all I can say is there's times when you can, that doesn't matter, and there's times when it does. It just depends on the fact circumstances.
To address a question that you're kind of tiptoeing around, we've touched on it a bit. The splits that have occurred so far as I can tell, all are legal non-conforming splits in terms of funneling code. They all predate 2006 when the funneling code went into place. So that's why we had the addition without the additional shoreline requirement. From here on, any future splits, so let's say the 3 acres of the Wise property to the west there, you couldn't add any more onto this easement because of that anti-funneling code. So we're looking at a very 1 or 2 lots here with this property, but the bigger splits would not be possible because of the code.
But you guys did purchase this knowing this easement was in place when you purchased your 2 lots, correct?
I didn't know. When we bought it in 2002, I was I thought about 3 or 4 years ago.
So that would have been somebody didn't.
So that's not an uncommon situation either. I've had that happen in some litigation as well. That would be an issue for title insurance. If someone's not told of an easement when they're buying property, they might have a claim against their title insurer. But it should be found during a title search when you're purchasing property.
And they should be notified of that at that time.
Right, if you choose to read your title, and not everybody's is interested in that as others.
Right.
But yes, it should have been found by the title company.
Nathan, would this be the normal sequence of events that this come before the Plan Commission, before it goes for the BZA for a variance, for variances?
It could be either because there's going to be conditions both ways. In this case, I would, all things equal, it kind of makes sense to do the Plan Commission first because it's inherently a 2-part process. You have the primary plat and the secondary plat. So if there are changes after primary approval, they can be taken care of before the secondary plat. So let's say the BZA has some condition that has to be shown on the plat, for example. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it's the other way around, you might have a bit more paperwork to have to change after the fact. So bottom line, could be done either way. This is a little bit more natural.
I guess we were probably more made aware of it when the owner of the house to the north of the barn, changed their house into a PRV. And she advertised that to be a advantage of renting that house, and so they surveyed that easement down through there, and that's when we, I guess, more or less really got involved, and that's what it was. So that was February.
Well, I think from the standpoint of the Plan Commission, the easement is really not a factor in our decision on the split. I think maybe it would have a little bit more weight if they're not giving up one since they're dividing it into two. But I think it's a reach for us to have really any decision making in or say in which lot it would go with or not. And I think we probably need to focus on the division of the two plots and do they meet the requirements. Or division of the one plot into two plots, and does that meet the requirements?
Is the sale of the barn pending on the split? Brooks, are you still on? He's turning his microphone and stuff back on, so. Brooks, we can't hear you.
No, we can't hear
Still can't hear you.
Anybody have his number, or they could just call him on speakerphone?
Yeah. Brooks, we're going to call you. You have your cell phone nearby.
I don't know why my.
You're on speaker, so I'm not able to speak up to the microphone.
I can hear it.
Just like the good old radio days.
Yeah.
Okay, the question was, is the sale of the barn
pending the split of the parcel?
No, because he's a buyer with me on the property. So if for some reason this would get turned down, he's going to keep it and turn the house into a rental. And the other thing I wanted to touch on, what was brought up earlier, was, and people keep saying storage yard, trailers. This is nothing more than an owner wanting to store his stuff inside. He's not leasing it. He's not renting it. You're not going to have boat trailers. If you saw the topography, which was mentioned earlier, nothing's flat around there, so you can't really store anything anywhere on the outside of it.
Do you guys have any kind of HOA that would restrict that kind of stuff?
Did you hear that, Brooks?
No, I didn't.
Wanted to know if there was any HOA that would be regulating that type of a situation.
No, we weren't planning on putting any restrictions on it because we were just going with what it was right now, as it's been existing for years.
I appreciate the thoughtfulness of everyone involved tonight. Just out of curiosity, like to know if there's anybody that has any ideas or any inkling to make a motion, or do we need to move in a different direction? If they have other questions, I'll give you a call back, Brooks. All right, bye.
If it's fine with the board, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead.
My motion would be to approve 24 West Subdivision 3 West Loon with proposed conditions.
I'd second that.
I have a motion, a second. That'll lead us to further discussion, please. Or I would ask, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll call for vote, please. Joe Wolf?
Aye.
Kim Kurtz-Seslar?
Aye.
Mark Johnson? Jack Green?
Yes.
Brent Emerick?
No.
Dane Drew?
No.
Chad Banks?
Aye.
Travis Baker?
Aye.
Thor Hodges?
Yes.
And I see nothing listed under other business. Is there anything for the good of the cause, please? We stand adjourned.